Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of Sri Chandraprabhu Jain College, myself, B. Parvati, welcoming to webinar. Resource person and all participants to the economic implications of Russia-Ukraine war on India. I like to quote Swami Vivekananda words, talk yourself at least once in a day. Otherwise, you may miss a meeting with an excellent person in the world. Now, I invite Dr. N. Sujata, Vice Principal, Head, PG Department of Commerce, to give the welcome address.
Thank you, ma'am. Very good afternoon, one and all present here. A strong character can be formed only through the discipline. Self-discipline is the key to success. Without that, no one can shape his or her future. It gives you self-confidence to overcome all the barriers in the life. With a wonderful message, let me cordially invite you and welcome you all to this national webinar on economic implications of Russia-Ukraine war on India. On behalf of UG and PG Department of Commerce and IQAC of the esteemed institution Sri Chandraprabhu Jain College, Minjur, I am pleased to welcome the resource person and the wonderful speaker, Dr.ARTI BANSAL, the faculty course coordinator, Manipal University, Jaipur. Warm welcome, ma'am, on behalf of our institution. I am
Thank you so
happy to welcome our college secretary, Sri Lalit Kumar O. Jain, and the other management members, our beloved principal, Dr. V. Nagajodi, the heads and the faculties of various departments, and our beloved students, and also the other participants from the other institutions. Once again, I welcome you all for this national webinar. This is Dr. N. Sujata, the Vice Principal and Head of PG Department and BCom CS, signing off and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much, ma'am.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Now I give introduction about our webinar chief guest, Dr. Arti Bansal, BE, MBA, PhD, faculty and course coordinator, MBA, Manipal University, Jaipur. She has done PhD in marketing, 2017 awarded Lingias University, Faridabad. She also done MBA in Institute of Chartered Financial Analysis of India, Gurgaon. She has served investment and portfolio manager, H&D client services, wealth management, ICICI Bank Limited, Delhi, NCR. Assistant Professor, Manav Rachna International University, Faridabad, Institute of Management and Technology, Faridabad, Lingias Lalit Devi Institute of Management and Science, New Delhi. Presently working Manipal University, Jaipur as a faculty and course coordinator, MBA. She has a rich experience in corporate and teaching. Her KRA, that means key responsibility area, to develop and implement innovative instructional methods, to develop lectures, videos, other learning material, to monitor, maintain quality and ensure timely delivery, designing of question papers for various management subjects. Her involvement in various aspects like participation in faculty development activities, participation in national and international conference and paper presentation, conduct seminars and gets faculty lecturers. She has published research papers in several national and international journals. Once again, I invite you, madam. Now it's time for you, madam.
Thank you so much. It's my honor, and I'm feeling highly grateful to you. Thanks to the sir and to you also. And it's my honor to address you through webinar to a recently a very ongoing you can say the topic that is about the Ukraine and Russian war and its economic implications on Indian economy. Because it's not only we, it's not only us. Everybody is facing the repercussions or the effect of that war, either directly or indirectly, whether since India is having a strategical relationship with the Russia. So everybody is facing the same thing, not only India. If you talk about the world, the every other country is facing the repercussions of that war. uh, Actually, the thing is that the common man is facing the problem. The prices are rising, inflation is rising, and it's very difficult for a common man, to meet its budget and to fulfill the requirement of daily household, right? So that's why it's this particular topic is very important to discuss, to understand. We just came to know why this price is increasing. Just somebody says, or the government official says, due to some it's increasing globally also. But we don't know exactly like why this impacting much to us. Okay, if we talk about, like, we have very little import, you can say import from Russia or Ukraine. If you talk from overall GDP point of view, it is very much less than even 2%. But also, it is indirectly affecting the economy of India. you know if we just I will try to explain you from the basic things, because I know the audience is constitutes of the students also. So I will not go to some haphazard terms or economical terms, but I would like to address this particular situation in very basic terms. See, let's start. Why Russia is doing this? Okay, why Ukraine is important for Russia? Okay, and why only Russia is invading on Ukraine, not on some other country? Why? What's the reason? So the reason is, not it is not started just now. It has not just started 1 or 2 year back. It is since long, after the dissolution of Soviet Union. That time when the Ukraine became independent. So that time Ukraine, you can say, it is the second largest country after Russia, if you accept Russia. If you talk about the European countries, in terms of the land, in terms of area, in terms of the natural resources also. Okay, so if you talk about the natural resources, why Ukraine is important? See, Ukraine is strategically very important for Russia, because it lies in the geographical location. It gives entrance to Russia. And if you talk about the NATO countries, why NATO has come into this effect? See, NATO is basically, it's a North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and the main purpose of NATO, initially, it started in 1949, and after the Second World War, the main purpose is to, it is initially started with the 12 countries, with the US, UK, and the France. Those countries are having the nuclear power. So the main purpose is to, whosoever is the part of NATO will help themselves, will give the defense, against the third party. Okay, in case of any crisis, in case of any military attack or something, so they will help each other. So this was the main purpose of the NATO. And basically it was done by the European countries and the North Americans, right? So now, after this deletion of Soviet Union, the NATO, the US led NATO, the main aim is to increase their approach towards the various countries. They have included Poland also, and Czech Republic also. There are so many countries, that Italy and so many other countries, that they included in NATO. Now, indirectly, US also wants to influence the European countries. US wants to sell his oil reserves, to sell his oil, okay, through them. So they don't want to Russia to come up over again, okay, in front of the world as a leader. So they continuously, putting their troops along the borders, along the various countries that are in a strategical location across Russia. So but Russia said, like, in if you talk about the Crimea, the role of Crimea in 2014, when Russia annexed Crimea in 2014. So that time, there since then it is starting. It means you can say it is accelerating. The things are accelerating, and Russia continuously wants to talk about the various, agreements that has been signed with Ukraine, that he will not that Ukraine will not, involve in any kind of such treaties with the NATO countries. Okay, so against Russia. But indirectly, US tries to influence these European countries and Ukraine also. So that's how Ukraine is, against Russia. Okay, now why Ukraine is important, and why Russia wants to, uh, take control of Ukraine, because Russia that Ukraine is having a huge agricultural land, and various nuclear power reactors plants are there. If you talk about the energy supply in European countries, so Ukraine plays a major role on that front, because a huge pipeline, a very important pipeline, is connecting and servicing these nations through Ukraine. So that's why Ukraine is important. And these European countries, they are continuously under the influence of US and NATO countries, and so they are putting sanctions on Russia against that war. So it's essential for Russia also, to safeguard their country. And if you talk about the recent statement by Mr. Pope Francis, that just 2-3 days back, he has just said that uh, NATO countries, they provoked, or he specifically used the word barking, that NATO is barking in front of, Russia, and they provoked Russia to take such a drastic step against Ukraine. Okay, because they are also facing the same situation, kind of, because every country wants to safeguard themselves. Even as India also, if you talk about, like, if some other country is against us and they are planning, like China, they are, they are more focusing on Indo-Pacific region. They're continuously doing some kind of activities across the borders. So if you talk about India also, we are also, safeguard ourselves, and we also continuously increasing our defense budget. We are working on that front, to safeguard our country from any future problems, any nuclear attack or something, any. So it is very essential nowadays. Every country, like if you talk about US, if you talk about Russia, if you talk about China, if you talk about, any other country, so they, each and every country wants to, safeguard first of all, and wants to influence the world, influence others. Okay, and but specifically in this particular scenario, previously, since the last 2-3 years, we are facing the COVID pandemic problem, and our economy has definitely, faced a lot of disruption, or the growth rate has come negative. Indian, so it is very important for Indian economy to revive. Even our government, our central bank, or RBI, they are also trying to revive the economy by putting, some by easing the various rules and regulations, for MSMEs, and how to improve the export, how to improve the production. Okay, so they are continuously putting their efforts, how to improve the forex reserves. But suddenly, if you talk about in the November, In the November 2021, the petrol or diesel prices was stagnant, almost stagnant, and the elections was about to happen. So the people were thinking that after election, maybe the price of oil, the price of petrol and diesel may rise, But suddenly, if you talk about in February, due to this war situation, suddenly the price of crude oil skyrocketed, and the if you talk about the stock market, it has crashed by more. If you talk about the Sensex, it has crashed by more than 2700 points, and the market has came down. Okay, now why the market has came down? Because there was a total political instability, and you can say the rise in the prices of gold, the rise in the prices of crude oil, that affects the market. Now the inflation, if you talk about the inflation, now if you talk about the inflation, just on the last Wednesday, Mr. Shashikanta Das, he is the governor of RBI. So what he announced suddenly, around 2 o'clock, he announced that there will be hike in interest rates. There will be, increase in repo rate or increase in CRR. Why he announced suddenly? Because the monetary policy is generally announced in the you can say April, then in every 2 months, then next will be in the June. But now, why suddenly in May, in between suddenly? Because they are proactive, and they are seeing the influence of inflation, and they are forecasting, because these people and these government agencies, they are forecasting the things. They know very well in advance that what may influence in future, what may happen, how the price inflation takes place, how the growth events takes place, and so what action that needs to be done from our side. Okay, if we talk about that, the growth rate of projection, previously in January, the growth rate of India, that was around 9% expected, but now it is decreased to 8.2%, decreased by 0.8%, right? So this sudden decrease in the growth rate from 9 to 8.2%, and increase in inflation, the inflation is reached to how much? It is that CPI inflation reached to 6.95 in April. And if you talk about WPI, that is wholesale price index inflation, that is reached to 14.55. It is a double digit, it is the highest, you can say, in the last decade. So, if they are seeing that inflation is rising this much, obviously economic growth is taking place after COVID pandemic. Economic growth is taking place, but inflation is, a talk of worry for them. They are quite worried. Like, if suppose if this continues in the same way, the inflation, if keep on increasing, the CPI will keep on increasing, and rupee keep on depreciating. If you talk about the yesterday, the rate of rupees per dollar, that is around 76.5 something. So this much money is depreciated, and if the same rate continues, so in the next 2 3 years, the money, the depreciate, Indian rupee will depreciate at the rate, I mean, it will reach around 84 or 85 rupees per dollar. Okay, and so I'm not saying this is the projection by IMF. Okay, so to curb this inflation, to reduce that inflation, what RBI can do, because they are having the responsibility to maintain the prices, they are having the responsibility to maintain the unemployment or employment level in the country, to maintain the liquidity. If there is a excess money, so they have the responsibility to suck the excess liquidity, and if there is a shortage of funds or shortage of liquidity, and if they want to increase that, so this is their responsibility. So there are different processes through which they can achieve that, to achieve how to increase the liquidity, and how to reduce the inflation. So they have some parts in their hand. Okay, and so it depends on what kind of inflation it is presently. uh, it is a kind of cost push inflation, because the prices are rising because the price of crude oil is rising. Okay. And since we all know that Russia is the third largest exporter of crude oil, so if we talk about whole as a world, the price of crude oil is increasing, and it is having a cascading effect. Cascading effect means not only one thing, due to some other thing it is also increasing. Okay. If one particular thing is increasing, it reflects its impact on the other thing also, so it also keeps on increasing. So that's how the cascading effect takes place, and the repercussions of that war, or the repercussions of this increase in crude prices, it leads to the increase in the prices of other commodities. You all must be knowing that Russia, or you can say Ukraine, is known as the uh, breadbasket of world, because they export more than the 30% of wheat all over the world. But now, due to this war, this supply is hampered. Okay. And along with that, there are various other things like palm oil, or you can say edible oil or sunflower oil. This also, Ukraine is the major exporter of that, so that is also getting hampered. Okay, now you must have seen that the price of edible oil is increased too much in the last, if you talk about the 6 months. So it is increasing continuously, and not only the oil, or not only the edible oil, the prices of other commodities also, that is also going to increase. Now, the effect of this war, that US is opposing, and US is putting sanctions to Russia. Now, US is putting sanctions to Russian banks also. Okay, to various millionaires of Russia, to do business. They are putting sanctions in some or the other way. They are stopping the other nations to do business with Russia. Okay, so these particular situation now, because of these sanctions, it is very difficult, to continue trade. Now, it is not like that. Uh, as a India or as a country, we are sufficient. We don't want trade. Yes, we want trade. Export and import both takes place. Okay. So, due to the globalization, each country is fulfilling the department of requirement of every other country in some or the other way. No country is self-sufficient, right? So, if we are exporting software services, and if we are exporting this fertilizers or pharmaceutical products, or you can say the refined products. Okay, so we are helping others, and we are also importing the things, to keep continue growing our economy, to fulfill the demands of our economy. Okay, so it is very essential that the kind of bilateral trade takes place between the countries. Okay, but due to these sanctions that has been put by US or NATO countries to Russia, it is very difficult for Russia, to fulfill the demands of either you can say wheat supply or the supply of crude to other countries. Now, this is the point where India can look upon as an opportunity, because crisis also gives rise to opportunities. Okay, in times of COVID also, we took the all the benefits of opportunities, as we have started production of vaccines. We have started production of pp kits, and the various medicines, vaccines, and we export it to the world. We have supplied it to the world. Okay, so that's how we took the benefit of uh, opportunity. Similarly, here also, if there is a supply problem with Russia, so in supplying of wheat, or you can say, if we see the recent crisis of Sri Lanka, so Sri Lanka is also a quite exporter of tea products, or you can say the food products or tea products or agricultural products. So due to this crisis, this is the opportunity for India to export more, and in this April 2022, there is a huge record production of wheat, that is around 111 million tons of wheat that is produced, and we are going to export it of course, after fulfilling our requirements, we are going to export it, and we are going to get the benefit of that. Okay. Now the thing is that if rupee is depreciating, why rupee is having, why it is important to control the depreciation of rupee. Okay. Okay, so when we are doing, I was explaining you about the trade deficit. So when we are doing export and import, trade deficit is basically the difference if there is a more import and less export. Okay, so there comes the trade deficit. So that trade deficit has been widened. Okay, and it has been widened to $200 billion in April. Okay, so the RBI main aim is to reduce that, to maintain the balance. Okay, and now how to reduce that? The first thing is either we can improve our exports, we can increase our exports. Okay, or we can do to decrease the imports. Okay, now why we are unable to decrease the imports? Because we require energy, we require coal, we require crude oil to to fulfill the demands of our country. Okay, we import so many things, gems and stones and chemicals. Okay, the various equipments, spare parts, that manufactured in Ukraine. Okay, Ukraine is, you can say, the hub of manufacturing of automobile spare parts. So we need to do something. Look, like how the RBI will help in that. Okay, now to reduce the basically to current account deficit, if the RBI wants to reduce that, what he is doing, that they are using the forex reserves. Okay, and in April, the forex reserves reduced from 640, you can say $640 million. It was $640 million, and it has been reduced to uh, $600 billion. So that much forex is used to maintain the depreciation of uh, to decrease the depreciation of rupees, to maintain the that fluctuations in the rupees basically. Okay, but RBI can use these forex reserves up to a limit. Okay, it's not like that they keep on using the forex, they keep on selling the dollars. It's not like that. Up to the limit they can do, but later on they have to take some step. Now what steps they can do? They have introduced increase in the repo rate, increase in the CRR. Now what results, how increasing the repo rate helps in reducing the inflation. See, if the repo rate is increased, that is increased by 40 basis points. Okay, generally it increased on the basis of 25 basis point, but this time RBI has increased by 40 basis points. Okay, uh, so that repo rate is increased to 4.4 basis. Okay, now if repo rate is increased, what is repo rate? Repo rate is the rate at which RBI lends money to the banks. Okay. Now, if the rate is increased, your lending rate will also increase. Means your housing loans, your car loans, your personal loans, and the various kind of loans interest rate will increase. So ultimately, that will put pressure on the pocket of the common man, if the or you can say the pocket of the big institution corporates, because they are also having plans, long term plans. So if the rate is increased, they will buy less, they will borrow less, the loans will be decreased. Okay. And if you are having less money in your hand, you will spend less. Okay, you will tight your hands. Okay. So in this way, RBI tries to curb the inflation. Now if you have less money to spend, so there will be less demand of the products. Okay, if you don't have money to spend, you will not go to market to shop, you will not buy the things, and if you don't buy the things, the demand will reduce automatically. And if the demand reduced, the price come down. Okay. And if the demand reduces, the prices come down. In this way, if the prices come down, the inflation comes down. So this is the basically logic, or this is basically the process through which RBI controls the inflation. Now secondly, sometimes inflation is helpful also, sometimes inflation is necessary also. If you want economic growth, if you want spending, if you want more production, okay, so that time inflation is also required. But the main responsibility of RBI is to maintain inflation in between the 4 plus minus 2, you can say max to max 6%. But now it is increased. Okay. So now it is increased to 6.95 inflation. So that's why RBI took that particular step to reduce the inflation and to reduce the liquidity. The main purpose of introducing the repo rate and the CRR is to, they want to suck the liquidity. Approximately 87,000 lakhs of crores, 87,000 crores they want to suck from the market. They want to suck liquidity from the market. In this way, they want to reduce that spending or liquidity, so that somehow it can be controlled. So this is the one way, and another way can be how to improve the exports. Basically, the government is trying to improve the exports, the government is trying to fulfill the requirements that that vacuum which is created by the sanctions, okay, on Russia. So they want to fulfill the requirements of through exports, either through exporting the wheat, or you can say the other materials, or the clothing or textiles or whatever. Because see, not only the crude oil supplies is the problem, the other problem is the supply chain, logistics. The world trade happens through train, and majorly through marine, through sea, and through air. Now, if the crude prices increases, the price of jet fuel also increase, and if the price of jet fuel increases, overall operating cost of airlines, that will increase, because jet fuel comprises of around 35% of overall cost. So the air travel will increase, and the sanctions, it also hampers the train routes. Okay. And most importantly, the sea routes. Now due to the sanctions, the ports of the world, which are doing trading with the Russia, these get hampered. And due to the sanctions, no country wants to take revenge against US. Okay. So it is very difficult for even Indian companies to do trade with Russia, to transport crude oil, to import crude oil, or to transport materials through even sea. It is getting very difficult. Because previously what happens is, like, if you want to import something, like suppose if you are importing crude, okay, the insurance is provided by the various companies, like Indian Oil Corporation. They provide insurance, a free on board kind of insurance. Means if you are importing something, and if something happens in between, during the transit, so we will insure your products. But now they have denied due to this war. They have denied. Indian Oil Corporation has denied. And secondly, the most important thing is the financial transaction, the payment system, that is impacted a lot by the sanctions on the Russian banks, or you can say sanctions on the through the sanction due to that SWIFT international bank, that is the international payment system. So they have denied doing the transactions. So even our own biggest public sector bank, that is SBI, they have denied the doing any kind of transaction with the Russian banks. Okay, so in this way, if you talk, because these transactions and these trade takes place by MSMEs, the micro and small and medium enterprises, they are the major trade partners, And if the trade supply is hampered, the payment system is hampered. So how the trade takes place? So everything is connected. Okay. For example, if you are importing something and if you are importing a laptop, okay, and if the freight rate, if the fuel prices increased, okay, then the freight charges will also increase, and ultimately it will result in the increased cost on the pocket of the consumer. Okay, and if you are, take another example of a car. If you are manufacturing a car, and you must be needing the auto parts, okay, and that auto parts is manufactured in Ukraine. Okay, so if the industries are hampered there, and it is getting very difficult to import the parts, so the freight charges are increased, and there are, and even the shipping cargoes, they are also not available presently. The Indian companies, they are facing main problem in the shipping. The first of all, the freight charges are increased, and secondly, the cargoes are not available. They are finding it difficult, because if something is manufactured in Russia, and if India wants to get it, it is not necessary that the cargo companies is there with the Russia or India. It may be with some other countries in between. Okay, so no country is wants to come in between and take the revenge from Russia against US. And US is continuously putting pressure on these countries, that you don't need, just stop doing business, just stop taking oil from Russia, even on India also. But the fact is that the Biden administration, they can't put pressure on India, and they can't, till now they have not put any sanction on India, that you don't do any kind of business with Russia for a crude or something, because their own members, so parliament members, they are against that fact, and they know that India is a strategic partner of Russia, of India, and of US. So they can't take some kind of such a steps with India. And presently, the Indian government is trying his best, on diplomatic manners, or they are trying best, they are trying to deal with Russia, and they are asking for something below $70 per barrel of crude oil. They want to uh, do some kind of agreement with Russia for the next some years, that you will not increase the price, and you will maintain the price below $70 per barrel of crude oil, and we start the business and just send. And even if you talk about the last 2 months, previously I told you that the import of crude oil was less than even 2%. But now, if you talk about since the last March and April, India has, imported a lot, approximately 17 to 20% of crude oil from Russia, and on daily basis they are importing from Russia. Now there are two things. Okay, suppose if Russia agrees to supply oil to India. Now, the route through which the oil comes to India, that is through the Black Sea, that is the eastern area of Ukraine. So that particular route, even Russia transports that crude oil to the various European countries through that route only. Now, presently, the port, that is the St. Petersburg's port, and the Mumbai port, the trade is happening through this. But here comes the the treaty which has been done in 2019 by Mr. Modi and Putin. That is the corridor, the marine corridor of uh, that Volodymyr and Chennai route. So the total area of that travel, that has been reduced. If you talk about the distance of St. Petersburg to Mumbai, that is approximately around 8,675 nautical miles, and it takes approximately 40 days, to reach. But if we consider the new route that helpful in summers, and even India has given a credit line of $1 billion to Russia to develop that port of Volodymyr. Okay, so yeah, so that area is reduced by 5,647 nautical miles. So there is a drastic a decrease in the distance also through marine, and also the time is also decreased from 40 days, it will take now 24 days. Okay, so government is working on his front, government is trying his best, and government is trying his full efforts, how to control the inflation, how to help our country. Okay, because they are also having a limited hands, right? These are the geopolitical situations, and so every country has a limited control over that. Okay, so just a minute. Yeah. Okay, so that's what I want to explain you, like how the things will take place in future, what is there in the plan. Okay, so this is the one thing of about the crude oil import, and India will import from Russia, that is for sure. Now who will import? Maybe like private, that's a public sector company like ONGC, they will import this from Russia. Now, after importing this crude oil, this is a crude oil, this is a raw material kind of things. Now, after refining it, there are so many other different materials that comes, like petrol, diesel, okay, kerosene, liquid petroleum gas, and the other materials that is used for construction of roads also. Okay, so in this way it will be util. Now here comes the hypocrisy of European countries. On one side, European countries are saying that stop doing business with Russia, or we are putting sanctions to Russia, but on the other hand, they want to buy refined products from India. Yes, it is true. The European countries, they are planning, or even they are also buying the refined products from India. The products which is refined in Indian refineries, that is there in Gujarat, in the Jamnagar. Okay, so they are importing the refined products. So this is all politics. Okay, yeah. Okay. Now, so SWIFT problem, I have explained you that the payment problem is happening. Now, another thing is that if SWIFT problem is there, now Russia and India, they are in talks to, to get some kind of alternate payment system. Okay. Either to do some payment in directly in rupees, because previously also Russia has accepted the payment in rupees. Okay, so this is not this is a problem, but they are finding the other ways. Government is there, the officials are working on that to find some other ways to do something. Okay, now I've explained you about how the inflation and increase in the prices, how the RBI has introduced the increase in the rates to curb the inflation. Okay, now okay, now one another thing, like due to this war, due to this Russian-Ukraine war, you must have seen since the last 2-3 months the stock market of India, which is also you can say indirectly reflection of our economic situation. The stock market is also unstable. Okay, means foreign institutional investor, they are continuously taking out the money. Okay, so why? Because there is a political, geopolitical instability, and there is a quite tension across the borders. So that's why they are taking the money, and they are looking for a safe haven to put their money. Now, the Federal Reserve, they have just 2-3 days back, the Federal Reserve has increased interest rates. Okay, now if they have increased, why they have against the same thing? Our RBI, They are being proactive. They have increased the repo rate and CRR. Okay. Similarly, the very next day, Federal Reserve, the Central Bank of US, the Federal Reserve, they also increased the interest rate by 50 basis points. Now, this is their attempt to decrease the inflation, because inflation is happening everywhere. In US also, in the European countries also, the prices are skyrocketing and crude oil prices increasing. The currency is depreciating. Okay, like that. So this is their step to decrease the inflation. Okay. So yeah, so now the why stock market has fallen. The stock market has fallen because of the outflow of money. The people, the institutional, the big investor, the who put money in lakhs and crores, they are looking for the safe investment, because if they are putting some money, they want some return also. Okay, and if they are seeing in the near future, the consumption is decreasing and RBI has increased the rates, the production will decrease, and demand will decrease. Valuation of companies are decreasing, so they are taking out the money, and they will put that particular money in safe haven. Safe haven means in some bonds, in US treasury bills, they will put money there. Okay, because if Federal Reserve has increased the rates, they are finding the rates more fruitful. Even our Indian government bonds, their yields are also, the 10-year yields of the Indian government bonds, they are also increased. Okay, so that's why the stock market is also decreasing. Okay, so yeah, now again the yeah. Okay, now the various impact industries which are impacted by a war, you can say, first of all, it is the paint industries, because there are various derivatives that comes out from the refining of, you can say, the byproducts of crude. So which are like monomers and the various derivatives which are used in the paint industries and in various chemicals. Okay. Even the palm oil, or you can say the edible oil price, are skyrocketing, because 85% of oil, of that edible oil, we import. Okay, so that is also increased. Now government is trying to increase the forex reserves. Okay, that I've told you, it has been decreased from 640 to 600 billion dollars. Okay, and to reduce the trade deficit. Okay, so these are the various things. So these are the things that is good. But war is not good for anybody. Neither it is good for the country who has done invasion, neither it is good for the people of the country which is facing the war, like Ukraine, because it has caused lot of destruction, and this destruction would take, you can't imagine how many years it will take to again come back to the same situation. Okay, because that destruction is not physically, that destruction is mentally also, emotionally also. So many families are, get apart, and so many troops are died, and from both the sides, and so many important locations, or that has been destroyed. Okay, so it's really a sad part, and now that particular war, that essentially needs to come on end. But this is what I'm talking from humanity point of view, from emotional point of view, as a human. But now politics, that is called politics, and they believe on power. Okay, and the power comes from, how the power comes from aggression. Okay, here the Russia shows aggression. Okay, now the most benefiting companies who are getting benefit from this war are the defense equipment supplies company. Okay, now these companies are maybe in US, these companies are maybe in European countries, so they are highly getting benefit, they are getting orders from other different countries. Recently Germany has placed orders, and Germany has increased their budget, that is around 2% on defense equipments. Okay, so each and every country is trying to buy more of artilleries, more of armed equipments, and more, they are working more on defense part now. After looking this war, even Japan also, and many countries, they are now feeling unsafe, like what Russia has did to Ukraine. So even any other country can did the same thing to some other countries by seeing the historical perspective, like previously it was our part. So but it should not be like that. Okay, so these are companies who are getting benefit, means people are saying that invest in these companies or who are having the defense equipment supplies, because their share price are going to increase anyhow. Okay, so that their demands is getting increased. Okay, so like that. So that's all about, I've explained you, but our government is trying best. Yeah. So I was explaining you about the export, like in on export front, if you talk about like IT industry, it is getting benefit. Software industry, it is getting benefit from exports and from depreciation of rupee, because if rupee depreciates, the IT companies or software companies, they are getting more money because they are exporting software services. Okay, and if you talk about the import, uh, they are getting expensive, because if the rupee depreciates, so import you need to pay more. Okay, for the same amount of goods you need to pay more, and if you are paying more, that means your import bill is increased. So ultimately what happens is your trade deficit will increase. Okay, so these are the different measures government is trying to reduce that. Government is trying to handle the country situation also. And the most difficult part is that our economy has just tried to take off, and just after the COVID pandemic, our economy has just tried to take off and comes back to the pre-pandemic level. But due to this war, again it will take some time. And as the Modi government or the central government of India, that is, they have planned for 5 trillion economy by 2025. Now IMF said that it is not possible due to this thing. Now it will take another 3-4 more years to achieve that target of 5 trillion GDP. Okay, so but government is doing its best, and they are focusing more on exports. They are trying to control the inflation. They are trying, and another most important thing is that we need to reduce the dependency of on crude oil. Okay, we need to find the alternative. We need to find some green energy. We need to find alternatives, that are renewable. So now they are in the demand, and it will definitely help our country to reduce the dependency for crude oil in a great extent. Okay, so this is all about, I want to explain you, and from my side, I'm not an expert, but I have given my views on that. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Okay, so what could be the threat to Indians working in European countries? So, as such, there is no threat. As such, there is no threat, because the Indian government is trying our best, and they continuously, their main focus is to increase the relationship with the European country. It's not like that the Indian government, they are just not focusing on the bilateral relationship with the European country. They are continuously doing their efforts, whether it is France, whether it is Italy, whether it is Poland, or recently you have seen that during the evacuation of Indian students, the Poland, Romania, these countries continuously, our delegates are in the contact with these countries, and they continuously help us. So there is no as such any danger, because we are not doing anything wrong. See, it is not about only the yesterday. It is not, because Mr. Volodymyr Zelensky, he is continuously trying to meet. He is continuously, since the last 72 days, he is continuously tries to talk to Russia and tries to, stop the war. He is continuously saying, it is not just yesterday. He is, since the beginning, he is saying the same thing. So it is up to the Russia that how the Russia takes it, because they are working on their own principles, they are working on their own conditions. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, you are given a excellent speech.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
You are given an excellent speech, ma'am. My
Thank you.
question: what will be your suggestion in reducing inflation CPI, Consumer Price Index?
Okay. Okay. First of all, ma'am, my suggestion is to, as a government, my suggestion is first to reduce the dependency on crude oil, because it is the major, but it can't be reduced. I know that, because transportation is very important, and crude oil is, also responsible for the production of the things, directly or indirectly. But for the time being, we need to reduce the spendings. We need to focus more towards the savings, and if we reduce the spendings, in this way there will be less demands of the product, and subsequently the prices of the products will come down. So the whatever steps that RBI did in the last 3 days, like he has increased the repo rate, he has done absolutely right, and this is the proactive step. But in maybe in June, that, again the monetary policy will come in June, so again that repo rate will increase. That is my, you can say, my view, that again repo rate will be increased. Now, why they have increased by 40 basis point, why not by 25 basis point? Because it is required. Now they can't do it like just 100 basis point or 200 point. They will do it subsequently, they will do it slowly. So that's how they introduced 40 basis point increase, and later on they will, may introduce again 50 basis point or something in the later coming months.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Any question? Now I call upon Mr. Muralidharan, HOD in charge, Department of Commerce UG, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on this national webinar. On behalf of our management, principal, and vice principal, I express my heartfelt gratitude to our beloved chief guest, Dr.ARTI BANSAL, faculty course coordinator of M.B.A, Manipal University, Jaipur. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your inspiring speech and given us clear vision about economic implication of Russia-Ukraine war on India. Thank you, ma'am. I
Thank
also
you.
thank our principal, Dr. V. Nakajoti, and Vice Principal Dr. N. Sujata ma'am for supporting us in conducting this national webinar successfully. Also, I extend my thanks to our staff members, students, and participants for your active presence. Last but not least, I thank our technical team and our college PRO, Mr. Balaji sir, for being here always, our moral support. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. It's my honor, and in the near future also, if you want anything, it's my, honor to join you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.